Traditionally, the speculative derivative trades of banks have been separated from the commercial banking infrastructure of banks until about a decade and a half ago. Can you walk us through that process and how this became part of the basically one big banking system?
Right. Well, it was in 1933. Roosevelt passed the Glass-Steagall Act, which said that, of course, at that point, the banks had been wiped out. They had a bank holiday, closed the banks. And when they opened up, it was totally new rules. And one of the rules was that we were no longer on the gold standard. But one of them was that banks were no longer allowed to gamble with their depositors' money. They had to put the depositors' money in one arm or one, they had to be separate banks at that time, I think. So you would have your investment wing over here and your deposits over here. But in 1999 and 2000, that act was repealed, supposedly because our banks were losing out on global markets and had to be able to compete. But really, it was actually part of the World Trade Organization rules, where all the countries had to agree to this to open their banks or open their borders so that all the banks would be under these same rules, because it wouldn't work if only our banks were doing it. Well, that's the same thing that we're seeing with the G20 here. Originally, it was the G7, and I think they probably thought, well, that's not enough countries. We need all the big countries. So they roped all the 20 countries into the G20 as if they were having some sort of control over the rules. But really what it was that it would get them under the thumb of the Financial Stability Board, which would then just do these edicts, and all the countries would have to comply. And they are complying because they don't seem to know what they're doing. I mean, that, like Obama, you can just imagine that he's not real up on the bail-in procedure and so forth. His advisors tell him to sign it, so he signs it. I mean, his job is to do the photo ops and maybe say something rude about the Putin and other leaders that he doesn't like. It's all a staged thing for over several days, and nobody looks real closely at these hundreds of pages that they're supposed to put their stamp of approval on.